If you are a non-native English speaker and you use YouTube to watch videos about learning English, then you might have noticed that YouTube is increasingly recommending videos from channels with funny names like English Podcast Zone, Speak English with Class, or English Learning Podcast. Maybe you click on one of those videos, you think it looks interesting. You press play. Something seems a little bit strange, nothing particularly weird, but it feels a little bit off. You listen for a few minutes, and then you find yourself asking yourself some variant of the question: is this AI voice or real person? Well, congratulations, Sherlock Holmes, you have just stumbled across some AI slop. The mass-produced, AI-generated English videos that are taking over YouTube. So in this video produced by Human Me, I want to talk to you about 4 things. The first is, what is slop and what is AI slop? Then we're going to talk about why there is so much of it targeted at people learning English. Third, we're going to talk about why this is bad, and it is bad. And fourth, I'm going to give you 5 tips, 5 ways in which you can figure out for yourself if something is AI generated. Okay, first thing, what is slop, or what is AI slop? Let's actually talk about the word slop before, because it's a great word. Slop originally was the sort of waste water, the waste products that would come from cooking. So let's say you made a big soup and there were leftover potatoes or chicken or whatever it might be. You might put that all into a big saucepan, and that is slop. It's not fit for human consumption, but if you are a farmer, for example, it's the kind of thing that you might give to your pigs. So imagine sort of unappetizing, semi-liquid food made of all sorts of different leftover ingredients. That is slop. And you might have heard it recently being used in conjunction with AI slop. Now, AI slop is this mass-produced content, whether that's text, images, or video, that often has signs of it being relatively low quality. Telltale signs, things that you can immediately notice that it has not been written or drawn or made by a human being, but by generative AI. Whether that's stuff like really poorly produced news articles, videos of cats doing improbable things, or anything that just seems a little bit strange and unusual. Now, there are all sorts of moral discussions about whether this is an okay thing to be doing. I'm not going to touch on any of those at all. We're just going to talk about AI slop and learning English in this video. So why is there so much AI slop targeted at people learning English? Well, there are a bunch of different reasons. The first thing, I think, is just the sheer global demand for it. Right? There are billions of people who are learning English in some capacity. Whether those are people who are just learning English as children, people who are trying to learn it for professional reasons. There are so many people trying to learn English, and for so many different reasons. So there is a huge global market for this. And on YouTube, there are millions, must be tens or even hundreds of millions of searches every day for stuff like English learning practice or basic English conversation. So there is huge demand for this kind of content. Secondly, it is often hard for non-native speakers to detect whether something is real or AI generated. That comment that I showed you at the start of the video where this person was asking whether it was AI or human, to me that was incredibly obvious. I pressed play and half a second afterwards it was obvious that it was AI generated. But to a non-native speaker, it might not be so clear. It might even sound easier and more natural than real human voice. Because lots of these AI generated audios use incredibly clear spoken English with no mistakes and no deviations. For many people, it's easier. So they might actually prefer to listen to an unnatural type of English because it is essentially an audio version of a textbook. The third reason that English learners make such a good market for this stuff is because making good content for English learners, if you're a human, takes time, it takes lots of resources, it can take lots of money. If you are just churning out this kind of AI slop, it is quick, it is easy, and it is cheap. So lots of these channels, as we'll see in a minute, are making hundreds of videos every week. Now, this isn't necessarily lots of people working hard, it is just some serious AI work in the background. Generating these kinds of videos, this can be done in seconds or minutes. It's not the product of hours or weeks of hard work. And this brings us on to the next point, which is that platforms like YouTube or TikTok or Facebook don't necessarily reward the quality or don't even factor in the amount of time or effort that has gone into making a video or an image or a text or whatever it is. They reward what gets views. Their main objective is to have people watching as long as possible. So if people stay watching these AI slop videos, then they will increasingly reward them and recommend them in their suggested videos and the general recommendations on the platform. And to these channels that are making these AI slop videos, it is just really a question of economics. It might cost them $1 to create a video in terms of the AI costs of doing so. So that video really only needs to make more than $1 in advertising revenue for it to be worthwhile. And lots of these videos are racking up hundreds of thousands, sometimes even millions of views. So we'll be making much more than that in terms of advertising revenue. Now, maybe you're watching this and thinking, well, you just need to adapt to the future because this is how things are, and if people are watching these videos, clearly they like them and they are finding them valuable. Well, to a certain extent, yes, that's a fair point. And if people want to watch these videos, fine. But let me tell you why I think it is a bad thing for people who are learning English to spend too much time watching these videos. Firstly, it's that despite what these videos might say in terms of we're going to have a natural and authentic English conversation, it just isn't true. When you listen to AI-generated videos and AI-generated audio, although the quality has improved a lot since where it was 2 or 3 years ago, it is still noticeably AI-generated. The rhythm, the stress, the intonation is full of mistakes. It doesn't sound like a real human speaking. Even some of the videos that people are watching to help them do things like shadowing, for example, pronounce things the wrong way. Listen to this one.
Hello, dear English learners. Welcome to
Did you hear that? Hello, dear English learners. The stress is in the wrong place in that sentence. That is the first thing that was said in that entire video. And that's something that's been viewed 2 million times. So let's assume 2 million people have heard the wrong way to say, dear English learners. Hello, dear English learners. That's not where the stress should be in that sentence. Or listen to this one.
At some modern restaurants, there might even be a QR code that you scan with your phone to see the menu.
There might even be a QR code. That, again, is the wrong place to put the stress in that expression. It's a QR code, not a QR code. It's a small thing, but if you are listening to something with the express intention of improving your speaking, your stress, your tone, your intonation, these things often have mistakes. So what they are doing is teaching you the wrong thing. The second reason that I think these AI slop videos are bad for learners is that they flatten your language. There are sometimes jokes in these AI generated videos, but they really sound like AI generated jokes. Real communication is full of kind of feeling, full of emotion, people moving their hands. And if you are just listening to flat AI generated English, you miss all of this. So you're missing how English is really spoken, right? English speakers, when we speak, any speaker of a language, when they speak, they make little mistakes. They start a sentence, then they move in a different way. They might decide to talk about something different altogether. It's not a flat, clear path. And if you're just listening to AI generated audio, then you don't have any of this stuff because it is too perfect. And this leads me on to my last point about why it's bad for learners, is that it can often give you a false sense of confidence. So you spend an hour listening to one of these podcasts about going to a restaurant or something like that. And you think, wow, I understood almost everything. Great. And then you go and you talk to real people, or you even spend time with colleagues listening to a real natural conversation, and you think, I can't do it. So the reason that that has happened is because the English that you had listened to, which had claimed to be natural, authentic English, was not, right? It was not real English, the kind of English that you would hear if you're talking to real humans. And actually, look, I forgot one thing, because humans forget things, and it's that often in these AI-generated videos, they will say things that are just incorrect. They will give you the wrong information. So I spent 5 minutes watching some of these videos before making this video and found so many different mistakes. One of the mistakes that I found was this one.
Tasty.
That's our fourth word, tasty.
Tasty.
So when something is tasty,
It's good.
it's good.
Like delicious.
Delicious.
Yeah. You know what? In English, we almost never say the food is delicious, but we always say,
It's really tasty.
Yes.
This is really tasty.
yes. Okay.
So they're having this conversation about when to use tasty or delicious. The lady first says delicious. Then she says, in English, we almost never say the food is delicious. That's wrong. I'm sure there are thousands, millions perhaps, of native English speakers around the world right now saying something like, the food is delicious, or how was that bowl of pasta? It was delicious. So if you are watching that kind of video and you're writing down your notes like a diligent student, thinking, okay, I should never write delicious, that's just wrong, right? That's just incorrect. You would have learned the wrong thing. So there we go. It is bad for you as a learner. Don't do it if you can avoid it. Let me finish this video by giving you 5 different ways in which you can find out, and you can decide for yourself, whether something is most likely AI slop. Now, the first thing might sound obvious, and there's this phrase in English: if it looks like a duck, swims like a duck, and quacks like a duck, then it probably is a duck. So what I mean there is that, does it just sound weird? Do you listen to it and think, something sounds odd about this? Does it sound like they are talking in an unusual way? Does it sound like something you've never heard before? If so, it probably is AI generated slop. Now, I appreciate that this isn't such an easy thing to do if you are a non-native speaker. But I think by now we are all so used to how AI generated language sounds that if you hear that in English, you should probably be able to have a good sense of whether it is AI generated or not. The second is more obvious. Does it have those clearly AI generated images of people having a conversation? Perhaps people with suits on and headphones on? If so, probably AI slop. Number 3 is go to the channel. Are they producing a vast amount of content? Is there one new video every single day about generic subjects? If so, that's probably not possible if you are a human, so it is done by an AI slop farm. Number 4 is, I wrote in my notes, does it have a stupid name? Or does it have a name that is clearly intended for search engines, not for humans? Like Learn English Quickly, or Speak English with Class, or English Listening Practice. If it has a name like that, the intended audience is probably an algorithm, not a human. And then number 5 is you can go to the channel again and look when it was created. So was it created last month or last year and has got hundreds of videos that all look pretty much the same? If so, it probably is AI slop. So there we go. I hope that was helpful. Let me know in the comments below if you have watched any of these AI slop videos. I'm not going to put a link to any of them for your own digital health. But if you've stumbled across any of them and you had the misfortune of watching one, let me know in the comments what you watched and what you thought about it. And if you're wondering what you can do instead, well, my recommendation would be to listen or watch literally anything else.